and welcome to the 9th in my series of Masterclass videos for MidiStep. In this video, we're mainly going to be talking about the new step record and a new way of selecting randomized patterns from within a group. And for those that are jumping into MidiStep for the first time, David Collar has put a QuickStart guide together, and we're going to take a look at that too. So let's begin with the QuickStart guide put together by David. Now, this is not only useful for people coming to MidiStep for the first time, but it's also great if you're wanting to research just an individual topic rather than having to work your way through the manual. Now, there's a shortcut within the manual to the QuickStart guide, but if I step back, you'll see also that there is a button on the bottom left of the main help which accesses the QuickStart guide directly. Now, the QuickStart guide is meant to be read sequentially, and we'll discuss things in order of merit. So each section discusses one topic in isolation. So I suggest you read through this from top to bottom. It might not go into as much detail as you get in the actual user manual, but this is a great place to start, as it takes each particular topic and goes through it with a step-by-step guide. So be sure to check this out, and a big thank you to David for putting that together for us. So let's take a look at the big addition to 1.09, which is the new step record feature. Now, for those of you that don't know what step record is and how it functions, it's a simple way to enter quite complex patterns of notes or chords into the sequencer one step at a time in your own time. In other words, you don't have to play in real time. Now, to enter step record mode, the host transport must not be running. And what we do is we long press on the pause button. As you can see, it's now got a chevron in the upper left corner, meaning there's a long press. And when we press this, we get this little floaty toolbar which we can move around and position wherever we want. Now, once step record is engaged, you'll notice that the master position and all the parameter positions are set to 0. And at this point, MidiStep is waiting for MIDI input from my master keyboard. So let's play a series of notes on my master keyboard. So every time I play a note on my master keyboard, you'll see a note entered within the note area of MidiStep. It's important to note that the note only gets entered and the cursor advances when I lift my finger. In other words, after the note off is sent. But look here, we're on the last column, and you'll notice that when I add a note on that last column, it cycles back to the first column. And this is due to the fact the cycle symbol is lit. If I was to go and turn that off and then hit the erase button to actually reset the contents of the step record and then play through that sequence of notes again, you'll see that when we hit the last note, it'll exit step record. Notice as well how it automatically updates the octave lane for you. So let's re-engage step record by long pressing on the pause button again and discuss some of these additional buttons within this toolbar. Now, on either side of the toolbar you'll see a left and right button, and if I press the right button you'll see that the step cursor will move to the right, and if I press the left button the step cursor will move back again and cycle. If we enable this play button here, you'll hear that every step it sounds the note on that step, and that's really useful for auditioning and determining wrong notes and making corrections. So let's clear the contents of the step record buffer by pressing the erase button. Now, when you're inputting MIDI notes, there may be a time when you want to add things like a tie or a coin toss or a random in a particular column. And you can do that by pressing these red buttons on the toolbar. So I can extend that note on column 5 by pressing the tie button a few times. And at any time I can add a random note or a note off, or even a coin toss by pressing these red buttons. So now we understand how to input various notes into the note editor. But I want to take a look at chords. So let's clear the step record buffer and start adding a chord. And to do this, we first press the root note of the chord and then tap additional notes. Now the chord is only entered when I remove all my fingers from the keyboard, and you see that the chord is entered and the cursor advances. Now I can play in more chords, again by first pressing whatever the root note is going to be of that chord, then the additional notes. And then when I lift my fingers, the chord will be entered. Now I'm going to add 4 notes to this and then release. And you'll see we've got 3 chords now in there. And say I didn't like that 4th note I added to that 3rd chord, I could simply turn on the preview by pressing the little preview button in the top right corner of this dialog, and then using the left button to go back and preview these chords one after the other. So if I move to the right, you'll see that chord, I didn't like that 4th note, so I can quickly remove it just by tapping on the note. Now there's just one button on this toolbar we haven't discussed, and that's the Apply Scale button here. Now by default this is enabled, and if I bring up the keyboard in AUM, I can demonstrate how this works. Now if we look at the main toolbar, you'll see that the current selected scale is C major. In other words, the only valid notes are the white notes. Now I can actually tap on a column to move position if I wish. So if I play in a series of white notes, you'll see that they're recorded just fine, because these notes are part of the currently selected scale. But it's a different case when we start playing black notes. Now because we've got the Apply Scale enabled, it will force all black notes to the nearest note. So I'm going to play a series of white and black notes here and watch what happens. So as you can see, G sharp was promoted to an A and an A sharp was promoted to a B. So let's turn off Apply Scale and try again. And notice black notes are just ignored and only white notes are actually input. So it's up to you which way you decide to use this, but by default it is enabled. Now you may have other apps that are capable of generating MIDI chord data, such as my Progressions app here. And we could use progressions to actually play chords into MidiStep set into step sequence or step record mode. And to do this, simply route the output from progressions, in this case, into MidiStep and play the notes in from progressions. And once recorded, we can turn on the preview button and actually then use the left and right buttons to step through those recorded chords. So that just about covers the new step record. So now I want to talk about a new pattern option we've added called Random Group. And this comes in really handy when you're looking at splitting your song into multiple sections. As you can see on the left here, I have 2 buttons, section A and section B. And when I tap on those buttons, you'll see that it changes pattern within MidiStep. So section B consists of patterns 5 and 6, and section A consists of patterns 1 and 2. So let's take a listen. So hopefully you could see section A was cycling between patterns 1 and 2. Pattern 1 had an advance on it, and pattern 2 was directed straight back to pattern 1. Now if we have two distinct sections like this, it would be nice to be able to randomize between different patterns in those sections. But as you can see here, if I set all these patterns to just randomize, when we play this back, you'll see that it will randomize not only a pattern within that particular section, it will randomize any pattern. So as you can see there, it went from pattern 2 to pattern 5. Now we've added an extra option which allows you to randomize patterns within a group, and that's at the bottom of this menu, and it's just called Random Group. So I'm going to set each of these patterns to jump to a random group, and what determines the group is the fact that the 1 and 2, patterns 1 and 2, have an empty pattern after it, and that delineates the two sections. So let's see what happens when I play back section A. And if I move to section B, now since there are only two patterns in each group, it just went back and forward between the groups. But if we head off into settings, there's an additional option in this menu called Random Chord Behavior, and it's currently set to exclusive. This means that it can pick any other pattern in the group except itself. Now when we turn it to inclusive and play this back, you'll see that it will now be able to select itself as a random pattern jump. So as you can see, it's randomizing patterns within the group. So let's change the section and watch what happens when we change to section B. Now in this case, we're using HiveMind to communicate between a number of instances of MidiStep. So setting the group random really helps in this scenario. So that's just about it for this masterclass video on step recording. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to thumb up the video, and I'll see you next time.